Started. Hey, this is Robert. Thank you for tuning into Station Square. And yeah, we're already in October, which is kind of insane to think about because January was here and now here we are 9 months later. So thank you so much for tuning in. And today we got ourselves a very special guest here. We have Mr. Dean Redman. Thank you so much for joining me, my good sir. How is everything going
Wonderful,
on your
Robert.
side
Thank
today?
you. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on your show. Things are well. Things are been quite busy lately with a lot of things that I've been doing. So, like coming on your show and things like that. But yeah, things are really good. Things are really good. I like busy. Busy is good. Not getting a lot of sleep, but I guess I'll sleep when I'm old. So I get some rest next week.
Right. Well, yeah, certainly a lot has been happening. Because I know in the last couple of years we've had strikes, we've had new technology, we've had a lot of different stuff that is happening in and out of the industry. So, yeah, I know that this year has, I mean, there's never a dull moment this year, that's for sure. But for you, specifically when it comes to acting and so on and so forth, yeah. So what is something that has been keeping you kind of, busy and productive all throughout this year, and just share about some of the projects that you've worked on in 2025. And yeah, let's hear what you've been cooking up.
Well, this year has been probably one of my busiest years. I've made some
Yeah.
changes with my career as far as my team and things like that. And one of the biggest things I've been involved in this year, well, actually, before that, I had a film fest called the Hollywood North International Film Fest, which we had over. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and the H.R. McMillan Space Science Center, which is basically the planetarium, was always a really interesting spot for me as I would drive by. And I went inside one time, and so I ended up having a film festival there with 265 films from around the world. We had different categories. Was best directing, best acting, best student film, best animation, and what was one other category? I can't remember right now. I believe it was best short. And it was a wonderful night, and that really kept me busy the whole year. We're actually going to be doing something like that again. Um, we're planning for it for this year with my team. I have a buddy that lives in Paris. He'll be flying in a little while, and what it is it's going to be much more much bigger. We're going to have five five creatives, for example, creative areas. Once again, it's going to be a film fest. Then we're going to have music. We have a category of music, fashion, photography, and comedy. So we're going to have all of those five things over the course of probably about two weeks here in Vancouver, Canada, and it's going to be nuts because it's a lot of work. But we talked about it. We were just during the film festival. We were like, "Wouldn't we need to have this? Wouldn't we need to have that?" So yeah, that's one of the things that I've that's been keeping me busy for quite some time. But as far as my acting goes, I've done just finished a series called The Greatest, which is about the famous boxer Muhammad Ali and his life. It's authorized by the Ali family. So it's you're going to get more of a in-depth look into his life. And I play a boxer in the series, sorry, by the name of Archie Moore, who was close with Ali, and that's pretty much all I can really say about it right now. But it's done. It can be viewed on. It's done with Apple TV and MGM. So that should be coming out sometime, maybe next year or something like that. They're taking a lot of time to really finesse and make this one really big because it's it's an easy watch. It'll be an easy watch and an interesting watch. And the other thing that I've been doing is we filmed that out in Toronto, and on my way back, I from Toronto, I was then cast again in another series. So I was like, I ain't changed my clothes, get back to Toronto. That series is called Boston Blue. Now that is a spinoff of the 15-year running series Blue Bloods, starring Tom Hanks. Sorry, Tom Hanks, Tom Selleck, Donnie Wahlberg. Most people know that show, so I was really excited to be cast in this series because it's already got a following. And yeah, I met Donnie Wahlberg and Shaniqua Martin Green too. She's from Star Trek Discovery. She was the leader. And those two individuals are just really amazing people. For example, Donnie Wahlberg, he's a huge superstar. When I met him, very down to earth, and so he didn't disappoint me. If that makes sense. Sometimes you meet your heroes and they, oh, well, you know what I mean. um, and also, I'm directing as well, producing here in Vancouver. I'll be directing a film. We just had a meeting last night, so yeah, probably in about we'll go to camera in maybe about a month or so. So lots on my plate. Some other projects that are trying to do the scheduling for, so I can be two places at one time. So yeah, there's a lot going on for me right now. Very grateful for what's been. Oh, and some voice too. I can't speak about that, but yeah, as you know, you and I both are voice actors as well. So the voice game is it's not an easy one.
Oh yeah, and coming from somebody that's been doing this for about 8 years now, it is a journey. That's pretty much all I
You've
can
been
do.
doing it for about 8 years.
Yeah,
That's a long time. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, my God. Yeah, coming up in a decade, which is still kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though. I do like voice. I remember
Yeah.
my first voice audition. I showed up and I made sure I was looking good and you know not all raggedy, whatever. Your appearance is very important in film. But so I gave the AD my resume and my headshot, and he looks at me and he hands me back the headshot. He goes, "Well, I won't be needing this." So I didn't realize it's not all different. It's not all the same with voice. Voice is a lot more relaxed, if you know, as you know, right? It's not really about how you look; it's how you sound. Is what just basically how you sound, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess we can just get right on to the questions that I have here.
Okay.
I would you say that out of everything that you've done, because you've already mentioned a couple of different projects, but what would you say were the ones that were really the most exciting, as well as just kind of like something that you found to be so creatively just rewarding or fulfilling, and it's something that was kind of like a little, how can I put this? Because as artists, we kind of like to discipline ourselves or challenge with something that is outside of our comfort zone. So, what would you say is something that you're really the most proud of thus far?
I get asked that question a lot, and I'd like to say at this particular moment, but it's the answer is always the same. Um, for me, that movie is is um, is Warcraft, the world of Warcraft. And there's
Yes.
many reasons for that because it was directed by Duncan Jones, who is now even more so one of my favorite directors. He is the son of David Bowie, and he had a really interesting life. And to meet him was quite fascinating. When I did the audition for Warcraft, the actual sides, the dialogue had nothing to do with the movie. It was that secretive that they just gave us, made up some lines. And the character I was auditioning for, I had to come from a place of calm and then turn into explosive rage. And I remember I got there and got in the moment, and was supposed to leap, and I jumped almost right over the table. And I remember that it was about 6 or 7 people auditioning, watching, on the other side of the table, and I was like, I was either to myself, that was either very good or very bad. But it turned out to be really good because in that film, I not only played one character, I played two. And in my life, I never thought as a black man that I would get to ever be a knight, because knights in the movies were always white people, or yeah, pretty much white people. And Duncan Jones said, "No, I want you." He wants me to be a knight, and I became a knight of the Royal Army, the leader of the Royal Army in that movie, which I was wearing armor, and I got to ride horses, and I'd never ridden a horse. Well, not in a movie or anything like that. So we had horse lessons, and I was tested. I was doing voice because I played another character, an orc, Green Monster. It's There's a scene where Paula Patton is in a cage, and it's removing with an orc in there. That's actually me, but I'm all CG'd. Um, and so I had to do stunts. I had to learn how to ride horses. We also had to learn how to ride the horses because we would have a shield in our left hand, and then a sword in your right hand. So we had to learn how to guide the horses by squeezing with our thighs. So that was the most challenging movie that I've ever done in my life. And, not one, but two roles, but also it was the most rewarding so far. I mean, not to say that any of the other films I have done were not as interesting, but I had no idea that one role was going to turn into two, into horse riding, and I did stunts as well. We had to work with a stunt coordinator, so it was. I would say World of Warcraft was the movie that really changed my career.
Yeah. And what would you say is something that you really love or just cherish so much about acting in general?
That's a good question. I like. I mean, there's many things, but I like the detective work. I like figuring out, why am I saying this to this person? How do I say this to this person? How do I feel about that? I used to try to get it right, but I realized that, in a real conversation, you and I don't know unless you've got notes written down. But I don't know what I'm going to be saying in the next 15 seconds. So if you're too perfect with your words, it seemed to me, you can. The last thing I ever want to do is, like, when I'm watching television, and I can, you don't have to be a film critic to know this or feel this, but you can tell when someone does a scene, either you believe it or you don't. And when you don't believe it, that's, I'm not going to say bad acting, but it's not believable acting. Because, I used to do things like, if I would itch my face, I'd be like, oh, let's start again. But no, I do that when we're talking. That's what we do. We we cough, we stutter, we miss our words. That's so I had to really be real with the reality of acting. And so I look at it now as not acting, but rather reacting. And once I switched over to become a reactor, my not performance, but my truth became real. If that makes any sense. Of course it does.
Yeah, because like acting is reacting to
Exactly. Yeah. Listening
yeah,
also.
yeah, listening. Yeah.
But it's hard when you're like, because when you're doing, like, I still to this day, sometimes when I'll do self tapes, I've given myself the permission to understand that that's a moment that your brain is attacking you, and it's okay. You know what I mean? It's why am I thinking this? Oh, I'm good. All these thoughts start coming in because you're doing something, an unnatural thing, and trying to make it look natural. And while your brain is saying, oh, here comes that line, you're gonna miss it, or oh, I think all that stuff. So now when that stuff happens, I just, yeah, bring it on. It's okay, and it's given me a lot more ease in what I do.
Guys, while you were talking, I just think about all the times that, because back then, like before I even did voiceover, I actually used to do because we did this course where we did improv.
Yeah.
And with that, we kind of had this teacher that was really energetic, just really seemed to have like he just really had this positive energy that I still very much miss, man.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I would just say, I was just so glad that, he was the one who really kind of taught me. And I am so terrible that I'm blanking on his name because it's been so long. But I really remember like, and the where I'm getting, I promise you, I am getting to a point with this, but
So it's still a
uh,
show, man. You can talk all you like. I'm just a
yeah, I
guest.
know, yeah. So
this
the
is
point that I'm trying to make, yeah,
this
of
is the
course.
Robert Jackson show, right? The Robert
Mm.
Jackson show. So I think you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it has a nice little ring to it. But the point that I am trying to make with that, it's when I did the improv and just remembering that energy, that is something that really stuck with me because in acting, there is a lot because we improvise all the time, whether we realize it or not, just in life in general. So, and
Right.
we always have this really positive, just friendly, kinetic, just the ability to play and just not afraid to taking risks. Sorry, risks is something that just still to this very day, it's just something that never really left me. So if I'm doing an audition, like I'm really glad that you brought up your self-tape because it reminds me because I actually did a course, it's virtual, where we used to practice self-taping, doing on-camera stuff, um and it's really about making strong, believable choices, like you
Yeah.
said, because you hit an excellent point where it's not really bad acting, but the acting isn't really believable in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of
There's
like
many
for
ways to
us, yeah,
do. There's many ways to do to get to the end of the
yes.
hallway. But do I believe that you were really walking, or were you just, like it's like for me, it's like, is that person free in their even in their insecurity or their vulnerability? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, not pinned down to words. Because the words are important, but it's more about what we do around in and about those words. In my, that's what I believe anyway.
Yeah. Do you know what's something that I just learned recently? So we all learned the phrase getting out of your head.
Yeah,
It can actually I just found out that it's actually kind of a hot take, but it's sort of a really toxic piece of advice because if you get out of your own head,
there you
then
go. What are you supposed to do?
exactly. Yeah. And I've also heard that like when you start getting too much into the character that you're portraying, it can lead to not so good results. I mean, I want to bring this up, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows what happened to Heath Ledger with like Dark Knight Rise,
Yes.
the Batman Dark Knight, yeah, that whole story. But yeah, where it's like if you really get out of your own head and just start really become a character that you're playing, like that can sort of lead to disastrous results. So that's why I often say like, look, in acting, just be a person
Yeah.
and
Just
not,
so
yeah,
so much easier said than done, because you've got words to deliver. You've got
yeah.
you've got 60 to 70 maybe, decisions to make within,
Mm,
every
yeah.
every 60 sec or no, sorry, every 30 seconds. It's a lot of, like, so getting out of your way. I do understand that term, but I mean, uh and do what? Just do nothing. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
things that I've learned as an actor, I'm glad that I learned them, but most of those things now I've just thrown away. But
Mm.
it wouldn't be easier to just have never learned them in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need,
Yeah.
what works for you may not work for me. That's why when it comes to acting and things like that, it's very sacred to me, because it's a moment of vulnerability. It's a moment of creative learning. And if you learn some bad habits, you won't know that until you you know,
until it's too late.
yeah, or until you've not booked some things, or it's a very like we are our instrument. You can't blame the bike, or you can't blame the tennis racket. It's you. So it's a very for me acting, like who I work with as far as um, self taping and scene rehearsal and things like that. It's I have to believe that that person is invested in this and not just in it to for fame or for other reasons. And yeah, but I love it. It's I don't know what else I would be doing. I'd either be a fire truck, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fire truck. But then I grew up and realized, well, no, that's not, no, that's ridiculous. But they
I
put out,
was, yeah, I
put
was
it
about
down.
to say,
Yeah, is that?
no, I was going to say, unless if you wanted to be a transformer, like, yeah, fire truck is totally possible.
Yeah, but there's still metal all the
Yeah,
time. So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. But for me, with acting and things, what I also learned is, in my opinion, again, I I believe that what you see in front of you is 8-year-old Dean Redman, just many, 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 many years later. Um, I believe I am the same person that I was by the time I was 8 years old. A lot hasn't changed in me other than my appearance, but the world has changed, and what I've found is how what I've growing up is how he's learning how to adapt to this changing world, because I still have the same thoughts. I have the same curiosity, not the same thoughts, but I'm still curious about things. You know, I look at it as the things that used to get me into trouble when I was a kid is now my superpower. You know what I mean? And I think that's beautiful. I think that's
For
beautiful
sure.
because I'm still
Yeah.
still that little kid. It's just you know I'm not. I'll get you if you mess with me now. That's all.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your, because one of the biggest turning points, or one of the biggest segments that we're going to talk about is Boston Blue, which is coming out on October 17th. So
Friday night.
but yeah, Friday night. Yeah, 10 o'clock. Yeah, so watch it on
CPS.
CBS, y'all,
And in
Paramount,
Canada,
all the
CTV.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about, I don't know how much you can actually disclose, but just getting to be a part of the TV series and the pilot episode, just even getting the guest role. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about, working on the series and just doing a lot of these on-camera television, film, and just really being a part of, all of these different, because you talked about WarCraft, the Planet of the Apes.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so let's
because
just,
I
yeah.
don't think we talked about that on camera, but yeah, I was also in War for the Planet of the Apes. I played executive officer, who's a military guy, military soldier who is they don't write the word executive officer, so you'll see XO. So it looks like Kiss Hug. Some of my friends bugged me. When you played Kiss Hug in a movie, I was Woody Harrelson's right hand man, because Woody Harrelson played the general, and that was a wonderful experience. We filmed that here in Vancouver, well, just outside of Vancouver. I was on it we were filming for about 3 weeks, and I got to spend quite some time with Woody Harrelson. He's a really, really nice man, really, really nice man. He had a daughter that went to UBC, which is University of British Columbia. Um, but working on the Boston Blue, there was everything was amazing. I auditioned for it like 2 weeks later after I auditioned. I heard that they were interested, and then I think they were trying to figure out where they were going to do some filming. So anyway, long story short, I was flown to Toronto and put up in some really, really nice hotels and treated very well. The director of that series, because I'm in the pilot episode, The director of that episode, his name is Anthony Hemingway, and he just turned 50. So happy birthday, Anthony. Um, he's directed many films and things. But for him, again, in this industry, you will meet people that, you know, you're quite impressed with, and you see them on TV, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're in a scene with them, or they're giving you directions as an actor. So, working on the Boston Blue, it was very interesting because a lot of the crew, I believe, were already from Blue Blood, so there was like a big family. Everybody was well. They worked well. I noticed that the crew worked really well amongst each other, especially in different departments. Sometimes there can be friction between different departments in any business, right? Any industry. But yeah, Sonequa Martin Green, the acting for me with them, her and Donnie was just very natural. Donnie Wahlberg is a very natural actor, and a very gracious actor. They what I mean by that, they they give you, we went over the scenes a couple times, asked opinions of things. It wasn't just, you do that and do, it was very very organic, because it was the first episode of this new series. So we were, I'm very proud to be part of that initial creation. But yeah, I have no, I mean, I wouldn't say anything bad about it, but everything was fantastic. It was, when I was flying home, it was a little, I was a little sad the day I left. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I just came back from a convention that I just did last weekend, and just getting back after like a weekend of just it's a lot going on. Like when you do stuff like that, it's you
A
kind of
high.
also you I'm sorry.
It's a high.
It's very much a high because half of you're working, but then at the same time you're having so much fun just doing your job. But then when you get back home, it's like, oh hey, I got to do some more work. And but at least at the end of the day, you are having fun doing what you've been have such a huge passion about since you were a kid. But
Exactly.
I kind of did a little bit,
Kid.
yeah,
That year old kid in me is just so alive now.
exactly. Yeah, but I actually kind of wanted to ask you about your background in martial arts and doing stunts, firearms. So, yeah, would you say that though that's been really extremely helpful on you landing certain? I mean, like, yeah, like having a background, like for all of us, we have like we can be like people with who can wear so many different hats. But with your background, would you say that it was also very much? Um, it was kind of like a a large integral part on helping you alongside your acting,
Yes.
career anyway. Yeah.
Yes. I was, I started acting here in Vancouver, and
Yeah.
there was this organization called DEFCON 5. And what DEFCON 5, the term DEFCON 5 means like world is, you know, you nuclear disaster, war everywhere. But that what my DEFCON 5 was, a group of, it was created by two ex-military gentlemen. One was from the U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and one was from the Canadian Army. And anytime you would see firemen or SWAT team or military or any type of military organization, more times than not, it was us, and we all were. They had gave us criminal background checks. We had to go through a firing day. We were taught by the SWAT, like, we were taught by the at the time he was Vancouver's SWAT team leader, good friend of mine, and so that we were taught to, like, not just look the part, be the part, because we were, and many times we were walking around with M16s and AK-47s and Uzis and Glocks and things like that, real weapons. So last thing you want, the last place you want a real lethal weapon is in the hands of a fool or someone who's just untrained. So I got a lot of my weapons training through that through DEFCON 5, and then I went on to get my weapons license, things like that. Um, Also, martial arts was big for me because I was wanting to get into stunts. So I did stunts for a little while, um, and we would weekly train doing martial arts, Wing Chun. My favorite discipline is Muay Thai, it's kickboxing. So it's kind of a funny story. When I was training for the greatest, the Muhammad Ali story. I was flown down to Toronto for a few weeks of prior training, boxing training, and when I'm in my fighting stance, it's left, right, and then your leg come up, so it's fist, fist, foot, foot. You know what I mean? But Muhammad Ali wasn't a kickboxer, so it took me about a week to like make sure that I had to keep my feet on the ground and not kick the person that I was sparring with. So, you get trained in your ways. So, but yeah, all of that training, military, weapons, martial arts, stunts, yeah, had helped me get a lot of the roles, especially WarCraft, and War for the Planet of the Apes, and even the greatest. I mean, like all the skills that I have, and it's really like I really feel this, Robert. All the things used to get me in trouble when I was a kid. I'm like blessing the hell out of me now. So I'm very, very, very grateful for all that. Yeah.
Right on. And I think to close this out, what is something that you wanted to say to anybody that is aspiring or they've been doing acting or voice, just anything that, their hearts are desiring to do? What would be the last bit of advice that you want to close us out with?
Um, I would say my advice would be really look into yourself and see if you can do it for a year and really not making any money at it and have to do another job to be able to do that. uh, you know, you got to have some tough skin, because when it's good. But sometimes there's no, for example, like a chef. There's you're a sous chef, and then you work your way up, or you're a traffic cop, and then you're a more cop, and then then you become a detective. But when it comes to acting, there's no, okay, well, he's been doing this long now. I mean, of course, my acting opportunities are greater because of my level of resume and success and things like that. But it can really, it's not for everybody. It's If you're already a creative person, you're good for you. But if you're wanting to get into acting just to make money, it's some people still to this day say this to me. Oh, I could get into acting, like it's not a like it's not a hobby. It's a real full life commitment. And I would just say, you know, prepare for those days where crickets, or you don't hear anything. But if you love it, um, chase it, and it will, you'll, if you have to do it, then do it. Like it's definitely, it's not a weekend hobby thing. It's really something that has a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So you got to find your happiness somewhere in the middle. Yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah.
And do your homework. Study, study, study. When you get an audition, get to work right away. Don't waste time thinking you're just gonna, walk through it, because it'll show, you know.
Yeah. So when you first got your start in acting and looking at um, because you've been doing this for many, many years, what is
You call
something
me
that
old?
you've,
Oh, okay, fine.
I'm sorry?
I said, you calling me old? No. Yeah, I've been doing it
No.
for, I've been, no, I'm just kidding. I've been doing this for about, I've been in the film industry for about 20 years.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what would you say is the biggest thing that you've noticed, like when it comes to how the industry had evolved and the biggest changes that you noticed, like yeah, would you say that it's been largely the same, or would you say that it's kind of like, oh yeah, like it definitely has
Well,
evolved since when you first got your start and to
definitely
where it is right
evolved. It's definitely
now?
evolved, and I
Yeah,
see a lot of good actors getting opportunities, and a lot of I used to see a lot of, in my opinion, how did he or like how come this person's always working? They, there was a lot of favoritism. For example, when I would go, there were in my earlier in my career, I I had fortunately I had the foresight to know that not every job is a good job. Um, there was a time when me as a black actor, um, there was hardly any there were only roles for black people, and I would look at some of the breakdowns of some of the other ethnicity, basically white actors, and it would say John, 30 years old, loves his family, a great pillar of the community, will do anything for his family, really educated, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd see a role, a breakdown of a black character, and it'd be like John or Leroy, bus driver, black, 40s. So now one of the changes that I've seen is a lot of the characters that I read for actually have a backstory. And so, as far as inclusion and things go, you, how do you get good without not getting chances? If you don't get any chances, how are you supposed to evolve? So, what I've seen now is there are a lot of people that are doing well as actors because they've been given chances, and that one chance on set has sparked them. Because there are some, honestly, there are some actors that they're gonna be auditioning for years and years and will never ever get on that mark. And I'm not trying to be negative, but that reality now, as far as I'm concerned, is not as prevalent as it was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm not typecast anymore as I used to be, just military guy, and that was a lot of fun. Running, don't get me wrong, running around movie sets with, with weapons and stuff for 10 years. That was a lot of fun. But now I'm reading for, father roles, and just a way. I am not typecast anymore, which is I appreciate. And yeah, there's a lot of good actors out there that were not getting the opportunities, and I feel a lot of them are getting those opportunities now, and it just creates, like you look on television. What are you watching? Someone say something on Netflix. This series. No, never heard of it. I when someone mentions a series, I rarely know which one they're talking about. But before, Star Wars. You got Star Wars. Everybody knows Star Wars because there was hardly any. Yeah, there were not a lot of. Are you a Star Wars fan?
uh,
There were
OG.
hardly
Yeah,
there were just so few choices. But now, in the industry, yeah. Oh, and another thing, even with I used to go to set. I would do my own makeup. I would do my own hair. I would, they'd be like, "Oh, you're good," because people didn't know how to do makeup on darker skin or ethnic skin or whatever, or the hair. I used to, every time I got an acting job, I'd go get a haircut because somebody wouldn't know how to do my hair. So lots of changes as far as equality. Women now at 30 years old, their careers aren't over anymore. And I think that's fantastic. I used to know when a woman got 30, 33 years old, the roles dried up for them. Not so anymore. You know,
yeah,
I
man,
really like that.
yeah. Well, I guess on that note, I just want to thank you so much for your time and be sure to check out his, if you have a website, Instagram, everything in between. We'll include it all in the description. But for now, I just want to thank you so much, Dean, and best of luck to you. Be sure to watch, The Boston Blue, which is coming out on October 17th, Friday night, y'all. So make sure to get it into your little calendars. And
Oh, you
with
mean
that,
me? I'll watch it too.
yeah, and be sure to watch my podcast as well. I mean,
Yes,
that's a
definitely.
given.
No,
So,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. And until then, see y'all next time.
Thank you,
God
Robert.
bless.
Bye bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.